Hello, lovely patrons at the Lotus Cafe. I'm Empress Tiramisu, and today I bring to you a special thing we call the Notice Board, where we talk about updates, news, and events for various games that we play. On this edition of the Notice Board, we're going to be talking about Update 1.3.2 of Predecessor. We're going to just jump right in. I'm going to be reading the patch notes so you don't have to. First up, we're going to be talking about hero skins. First, we've got the Galactic Raider Steel, a wonderful addition to any Steel player's collection to make them look a little different. Maybe the previous little Mayan skin wasn't up to your liking? Well, this one's got a little bit more armor, and, the default coloration is absolutely beautiful. Next up, we've got Renegade Drongo. Trying some more neutral colors, makes him look a little bit darker, but he's still got his trademark orange scarf, because why wouldn't he? It's one of his favorite things. And finally, on our list of skins, probably the piece à resistance, the main centerpiece, is the Kingpin Bellica. And let me tell you, everyone loves them some Bellica thigh. The design of the tattoo on her leg is absolutely gorgeous, and it's an absolutely wonderful addition to Bellica's normally very straight-laced looks. This one breaks away from that officer, look. And we'll probably do a deep dive on skins eventually. Let me know if that's something you guys would be interested in. We can go into more depth on various skins that exist in the game. I'd love to do that. And of course, that means that with the new skins, we've got two new bundles. There's going to be the Galactic Raider bundle for Steel, which has the hero, if you don't already own him, the Galactic Raider skin, a Gasp spray, a Galactic Raider banner, and the Galactic Raider icon. For the Kingpin Lieutenant Bellica bundle, we've got Lieutenant Bellica herself, the Kingpin Lieutenant Bellica skin, the one-shot, one-kill overhead emote, and the Kingpin Lieutenant Bellica banner, and the Kingpin Lieutenant Bellica icon. Moving on, something really cool that they've implemented is community coaching. Looking to get good but don't know where to start? Or maybe you have friends who need coaching, but teaching isn't your strong suit. And let's be honest, a lot of us are not great teachers. This is where our brand new community coaching program comes in. Community coaching is a new offering available on our community Discord server where you can get personalized advice and private coaching from hand-selected and highly experienced professional players. Each coach is an expert at different parts of the game and are available to review gameplay replays, discuss tactics, and gameplay over voice chat, or help in any way you need it. Better yet, you can earn exclusive overhead emotes, profile icons, and banners, and even free hero unlock codes for taking part, so it's well worth a look. You can join the program by joining the official Discord and selecting the student role during the server onboarding experience or through the channels and rules tab. And of course, as in addition to that, as part of their ongoing efforts to welcome new players into Predecessor, they'll be shortly testing several different elements of their new player onboarding journey. And I think it's an absolutely amazing addition to the game because oftentimes you'll hear people say that MOBAs have just such a high barrier to entry. And oftentimes, I think people tend to confuse being a top-end player and a pro player with also being a good teacher. And I think this is a nice way to kind of separate out the people who are good at teaching the game, and there's a lot of confusion about like when it comes to teaching things, but that's not what this is about. But I think it's an absolutely great first step towards incentivizing people to reach out to other channels outside the game. It'd be nice to have everything self-contained within the game, good tutorials and all that stuff, but that stuff can only go so far. Sometimes you want a little bit of extra coaching. You might not know who to turn to, and as they said, maybe you're a friend who's good at the game, but you're not good at teaching, or you don't know how to really explain parts of the game in an understandable manner, or, sometimes a person's teaching style just doesn't match up with a person's learning style, and that happens. So the community coaching program, I think, is an absolutely amazing addition because there are going to be various kinds of teachers who have various kinds of approaches, and you should hopefully, if you are a new player coming into Predecessor or MOBAs in general, you should hopefully be able to find someone who is capable of helping you get a handle on the various knobs that you might be needing. Moving on, though, we have the gameplay balance changes. Starting out, we've got tower fortifications. Outer towers are receiving a reduction to their early game armors, better allowing plated segments to be taken as better allowing plated segments to be taken, as currently it can feel like they are a bit difficult to secure in the earlier stages of a match. Thus, outer tower pre 8-minute bonus armor has been decreased from 80 to 40. Plated segment gold drop has been increased from 110 to 120, so 55 to 60 per part or per segment. From there, we move straight into hero changes. Starting out, we've got Mr. Crunch. Crunch's healing capabilities in the late game allow him to outduel the vast majority of enemies in isolated split push scenarios. To ensure he doesn't outshine other offlaners in endgame scenarios, a reduction has been given. Recrunch, the ultimate, had its healing changed from 25, 65, 105 to 30, 60, 90. Healing bonus physical power scaling decreased from 30% to 25%. Healing magical power scaling decreased from 20 to 18%. Next up, we've got Drongo. Drongo's ability to all in with rad rounds during the laning phase can be too overwhelming when the ability is leveled first. A small hit to its damage is required to ensure Drongo does not as reliably kill his targets in one ability rotation when they are at higher health values. So, rad rounds, the secondary ability, or your right click when you're on PC, the additional hit damage decreased from 15, 23, 31, 39, 47 to 15, 22, 29, 36, 48. The additional total physical power scaling has been decreased from 20% to 18%. Grux, everybody's favorite thorn and obnoxious rhine elephant thing creature. With the addition of Rapture, Grux has gained a new tool that has further elevated his ability to Grux on his opponents. While fighter items are receiving their own adjustments that will have a negative impact for Grux, we're stripping back some of his damage to ensure he does not cut down foes as easily in the average match. The average match. Bloodlust, his passive, the damage has been decreased from 6 to 57, which is plus 3 per level, to 6 to 48.5, which is 2.5 per level. The double pain alternative ability has had its total physical power scaling decreased from 125% to 120%. Moving on, we've got our favorite assassin, Kalari. Kalari possessed a bug that prevented her from jumping in the chosen direction when using her passive double jump. This has now been resolved. Shadow Dance, the passive, had a bug fix, now correctly double jumps in the chosen direction instead of being forced in the same direction for the second jump. So basically, you can now jump forward and then jump backward, or however you choose to jump without having to double jump forward or double jump backward. Moving on, we've got Quang or Quang. How do y'all pronounce it? Quang or Quang? I'm personally a Quang girly, but I'm trying to migrate over to Quang. But Quang, while they may have helped his jungle viability, Quang's previous round of changes and the introduction of cataclysmic drive have left him feeling a little worse for wear in the off lane. As a result, some increases to his trading potential and ability to stick to targets through his ultimate are being granted to ensure he keeps pace with the rest of the roster. Light of the Heavens, his alternative ability, the damage has been increased from 80, 110, 140, 170, 200 to 80, 115, 150, 185, 220. Fury of the Heavens, his ultimate, the slow has been increased from 40%, 50%, 60% to 45%, 55%, 65%. So if you're feeling a little bit sluggish after a Kwang ults you, that will be why. Next up, we all wondered where this hero would land after his release. Morn! Morn has found general success since his arrival to the battlefield. However, his ability to disorient his opponents thanks to Eclipse's vision reduction and repeat mesmerizes is currently too oppressive and requires some further tuning, especially as his Beguile was affected by a bug that always resulted in maximum mesmerized duration being applied to his target even with a quick release. In return, some quality of life changes have been made to Beguile, making it more responsive and enjoyable to use, but not to be against. Extract, his passive, the cooldown has been increased from 9 to 10 seconds. Beguile, his secondary ability, had a bug fix. It now correctly mesmerizes for 0.5 seconds to 1.25 seconds, based on channel duration, not the 1.25 seconds flat. In addition to that, the self-slow has been decreased from 30% to 25%, so now you can move a little bit quicker while holding the charge. And quality of life, delay before reactivation has been decreased from 0.25 to a flat 0.2 seconds. The cooldown, however, due to these bug fixes and adjustments, has been increased from 16, 15, 14, 13, 12 seconds to 17, 16, 15, 14, 13 seconds. Finally, Eclipse, his ultimate, has its reduced vision radius increased from 1,300 units to 1,500 units. So now, enemies will have a bigger field of vision when they are within the Eclipse ult, which means that now you should be able to find your way toward the teammate and sync up together so you don't get ran at, or still get ran at and ran over. Moving on, we've got our favorite goblin and dinosaur lizard thing. Iggy and Scorch. The uptime of Iggy's flame turrets can feel difficult to pick off before he simply replaces them again thanks to their current uptime. Alongside a mild damage decrease, we're reducing Iggy's access to them in mid-game with an increase to their cooldown to better ensure that his enemies are kept them, or oh my god, that his enemies can keep them down in fights if they commit resources to kill them. I struggled so hard there. Oh my god. So flame turrets, the primary ability, the damage has been decreased from 14, 21, 28, 35, 42 to 14, 20, 26, 32, 38. The cooldown has been increased from 20, 18.5, 17, 15.5, 14 to 20, 19, 18, 17, 16 seconds. Lieutenant Bellica. Given that Lieutenant Bellica likes to play in her opponent's face during the laning phase, her shorter range and lack of mobility tools can leave her feeling exposed to ganks and returned aggression. Some additional movement speed is being offered, better bringing her up to the speed of other immobile heroes in her class, while also enabling her more wiggle room when playing aggressively. So, general change, her movement speed has been increased from 650 to 655. So now you should feel a little bit quicker when you're trying to weave in and out of fights and, make a clean getaway and your flash is on cooldown. Or blink, whatever you choose to call it. Moving right along, we've got Murdoch. Murdoch offers a lot of control and stability to his team. with him rarely having difficulty in the lane thanks to his long range and control tools. Various reductions across the board are occurring with the goal of reducing his general strength, both in lane and in the mid game. Shots fired, his passive, the cooldown has been increased from 14.5 to 6, which is about zero point 0.5 per level, to 16.2 to 6, which is minus zero point 0.6 per level. The static trap secondary ability, the bonus physical power scaling has been decreased from 120% to 100%. Buckshot, his alternate ability, the total physical power scaling has been decreased from 100%, 115%, 130, 145, 160% to 100. Saying percent every time is probably like that, but 100, 112.5, 125, 137.5, 150%. Moving on along the train, we've got Richter. Richter is receiving a round of changes aimed at improving his viability in the jungle and off lane. This is being done by improving the benefits he is receiving from levels to ensure it does not overly affect his strength and support. Alongside some general stat and damage increases for Electrocute to enable more effective PvE power, his passive cooldown now decreases as he levels up, better allowing him to withstand poke and play forward as the match progresses. So, his general changes include his physical armor growth being increased from 3.95 to 4.15. His attack speed growth being increased from 1.4 to 1.7. His Riot Shield passive, his cooldown has been changed from 10 to 10, 8, 6 at levels 1, 7, and 13 respectively. And the Electrocute secondary ability, the damage has been increased from 140, 185, 230, 275, 320 to 140, 190, 240, 290, 340. The bonus health scaling has been increased from 10% to 11%, and the magical power scaling has been increased from 70% to 80%. So now if you start seeing more offlane Richters, be afraid. Be very, very afraid. And jungle Richters. Shinbi, one of our favorite musical stars on the planet. Similar to Kwang, with the introduction of some new items in the previous patch, Shinbi now struggles in various matchups she could navigate before. To help remedy this, some additional strength is being offered to her rushing beat and all kill, giving her better all-in potential when looking to duel or pick off an isolated target. So, rushing beat, the alternative ability, the magical power scaling has been increased from 50% to 55%. All kill, her ultimate, the damage per stack has been increased from 55, 90, 125 to 60, 95, 130. The magical power scaling per stack has been increased from 18% to 20%. Skylar, our favorite sky-high flying shooting ADC. Skylar's explosion radius on both her plasma grenade and atomizer are currently overly forgiving and not easily dodged by opponents, allowing her to dominate fights with ease. Both her abilities are receiving a decrease in their damage area to ensure she must aim with greater precision. Likewise, she is receiving some general damage reduction in other areas, reducing her hypercharge's efficacy on hit items, and a reduction to plasma grenade scaling to ensure penetration builds do not hit overly hard. So, plasma grenade, her primary ability. The explosion bonus physical power scaling has been decreased from 90% to 75%. The explosion magical power scaling has been decreased from 50% to 45%. And the explosion radius has been decreased by 10%. Hypercharge, her alternative ability, the on-hit modifier has been decreased from 12% to 10%. And finally, her ultimate atomizer, the explosion radius has been decreased by 11%. Following Skylar, we have Terra, Armor Mommy. Since her previous round of changes, Terra has largely fallen out of favor and struggles to maintain relevance in any offlane matchups, while also struggling to keep pace in the jungle due to her slower clear speed. On top of some general damage increases, her empowered Ruthless Assault and increased shielding potency in the mid game, which benefit both roles. Some additional uptime is specifically being offered to Highland Hurl to better allow Terra to deal with single target camps. So, Ruthless Assault, her primary, the empowered third hit damage has been increased from 50, 75, 100, 125, 150 to 60, 85, 110, 135, 160. The empowered third hit damage bonus physical power scaling has been increased from 120% to 125%. Her Highland Hurl, the secondary ability, the cooldown has been decreased from 12, 11, 10, 9, 8 seconds to 10, 9.5, 9, 8.5, 8 seconds. The mana cost, however, has been increased from 50, 55, 60, 65, 70 to 60, 65, 70, 75, 80. The Wild Rush alternate ability has had its shield increased from 10, 65, 120, 175, 230 to 10, 75, 140, 205, 270. Everybody's favorite pixie, fairy. Who knows what she is? Spirit it is, though. The Fae. Thanks to her Harvest Nettles, the Fae has a great time applying pressure to her opponents in lane. Given that this is her primary trading tool in the early lane with high uptime, her basic attacks do not need to be hitting as hard and are receiving a reduction in strength. Likewise, her overall damage output and frequent access to Fly Trap leaves her outperforming many other mages with relative ease and are receiving reductions in potency as a result. So in general, her physical power has been decreased from 60 to 57. So your autos are going to be hitting softer. Bramble Patch, her primary ability, the damage has been decreased from 105, 145, 185, 225, 265 to 105, 140, 175, 210, 245. Untamed Growth, the alternate ability, had its damage decreased from 140, 195, 250. Oh, they made an error here. Huh. That's causing my brain to struggle a bit. I don't know if the actual number is supposed to be there, but so it's 250. I'm assuming that's supposed to be 20. I think it's supposed to be a swap of some sort, possibly. I don't know. But 250, 360. 2, 140, 190, 240, 290, 340. And her Fly Trap Ultimate had its cooldown increased from 120, 105, 90 to 130, 115, 100. And next up, we have Yin. While the previous round of changes to Yin have helped reduce her overall efficacy and oppressiveness, her ability to outpace and outscale quickly still has her continuing to outperform many other junglers. Targeted changes to her general efficacy and clear speed are occurring to bring her strength down to more reasonable levels on these fronts, with her receiving a small bump in baseline durability in return to ensure she does not become too unhealthy in her first clears as a result of these changes. So, in general, her physical armor has been increased from 24 to 25, her health regen has been increased from 2 to 2.15, and her base attack time has been increased from 1.3 to 1.35. Her Lash Kick primary ability, the cooldown, has been increased from 17, 15.25, 13.5, 11.75, 10 to 17, 15.5, 14, 12.5, 11 seconds. Windburned, her secondary ability, the max health damage decreased from 2.5%, 3%, 3.5%, 4%, 4.15 or 4.5% to 2%, 2.5%, 3%, 3.5%, 4%. Monster damage cap has been decreased from 50, 60, 70, 80, 90 to 50, 55, 60, 65, 70. The healing total physical power scaling has been decreased from 10, 12.5, 15, 17.5, 20% to 10%, 12%, 14%, 16%, 18%. Finally, Backlash, the alternate ability, had its bonus physical power scaling decreased from 100% to 90%. Finally, to end off our round of hero balance changes, we've got Zarus. Zarus has largely fallen out of favor in the offlane, with his Spear of Nier frequently falling off in the damage department unless he secures a snowball. Some additional damage is being granted to the ability alongside with some shifts to his mana economy, better allowing him to match up with other offlaners and not run out of mana as easily when using the rest of his kit, while ensuring excessive spear use will still have him eventually running out of steam. In general, his mana growth has been increased from 45 to 50. Spear of Nier, his alternate ability, had its damage increased from 75, 105, 135, 165, 195 to 75, 110, 145, 180, 215. Bonus physical power scaling has been decreased from 110% to 100%, and the mana cost has been bumped up from 35 to 40. Next up, we're finally getting into the items. Have your favorite items been nerfed or changed? Maybe they've gotten a buff and now they're finally reusable in that wonderful build you like to run every game. Let's find out. So, starting out, we've got Crest, Pacifier. Carries that are ahead tend to become extremely threatening when they have access to a Pacifier reset. Often securing multi-kills is too much ease. Multi-kills with too much ease. A reduction in its damage is required to ensure that Pacifier does not contribute to excessive snowball scenarios with as much ease. Thus, the adrenalize bonus physical power scaling has been decreased from 30% to 25%. Tackling Tier 1 items, we've got Divine Potion. Divine Potion is receiving a reduction in its cost as well as some general tuning, making it easier to pick up in return for slightly less mana restore, as at its current price, it could feel difficult to pick up alongside other items. So, its cost has been decreased from 350 to 250. The total health regen has been decreased from 160 to 360, from 163 to 360 to 150 to 350. There is now a bug fix. Now it correctly heals for 150 health, not 140 health. And the total mana regen has been decreased from 100 to 135 to 80 to 135. Lucky Feather. Lucky Feather currently overly rewards players that are able to hold on to it for excessive periods of time. While we plan on making further adjustments to Feather in a future pass, for now we are reducing its general gold generation in return for a higher sell value to reduce the cases of excessive snowballing, thereby giving more incentive to sell it and cash out once you're happy with the returns. So, its sell value has been increased from 300 to 400. The gold on unit kill has been decreased from 7 to 6, and the gold on camp leader kill has been decreased from 17 to 15. Moving on to carry items. Ashbringer. Given its more specialized effect, Ashbringer is currently understated and is receiving some additional physical power to provide it with more general combat strength. So, its physical power has been increased from 30 to 35. Viper. Since its return, Viper has emerged as a contender for one of the best carry items, smoothly fitting into a variety of builds. A small reduction in attack speed is being levied to ensure it is more in line with other options. So the attack speed has been decreased from 30% to 25%. Following that, we've got Solaris. While it's certainly strong on its initial purchase, Solaris tends to fall off a bit too hard in the later stages, while not quite meeting the mana needs of its users. Alongside higher mana and Solar Blade scaling to remedy these issues, a small reduction in price is also being given to make it more comparable in price point to other first buys. So the cost has been decreased from 3,200 gold to 3,100. Mana has been increased from 250 to 300. The Solar Blade bonus physical power scaling has been increased from 15% to 20%. Moving into assassin items, Psionic Echo. Psionic Echo is currently too expensive relative to other assassin options and is receiving a small price reduction to better allow it to curve into various builds. So its cost has been decreased from 3,000 gold. I don't know. My brain is like short circuiting, so forgive me. It's still very early in the morning. So the cost has been reduced from 3,000 to 2,900. Moving into the fighter item category. Various commonly bought fighter items are receiving a reduction to the raw health they offer to combat the rise of bruiser potency, especially now that Demolisher has lost its anti-health effect, which has left many carries struggling to deal with them. While subtle in isolation, the combination of these changes should leave bruisers feeling more manageable for all other classes to reasonably deal with, thanks to possessing less overall durability. Starting out with augmentation, the health has been decreased from 300 to 275. Basilisk had its health decreased from 350 to 300. Earthshaker. Alongside its reduction in health, Earthshaker is receiving a shift to its power and attack speed to better differentiate it from Rapture as the more ability-oriented attack speed option for fighters. So, its physical power has been increased from 30 to 35, its attack speed has been decreased from 30% to 25%, and its health has been decreased from 300 to 250. Gaia Greaves had its health decreased from 350 to 300, and its physical armor has been increased from 35 to 40. Overlord had its health decreased from 400 to 375, and then there is Rapture, the new hot item on the block for fighters, and many assassins. Since its addition, Rapture and its users have become clear overperformers. As a result, it is receiving hits across the board that are aimed at reducing its general efficacy, bringing it into greater parity with other items. So, the health has been decreased from 300 to 250, the ability haste has been decreased from 15 to 10, the Omnivamp has been decreased from 7% to 6%, the nearsight damage decreased from 20 to 18, and the nearsight bonus health scaling has been decreased from 3.5% to a flat 3%. Tainted Blade had its health decreased from 350 to 300, and Tyranny had its health decreased from 375 to 350. Moving into mage items, we've got Megacosm. Even against squishier targets, Megacosm continues to outperform other burst options in the overall damage department, thanks to the general potency of its dot effect. A reduction is required to ensure it is less of a catch-all and further reinforces its identity as an anti-health option. So, the Disintegrate max health damage has been decreased from 3% to 2.5%. Noxia. Despite its general desirable stat profile, Noxia struggles to find its place in various builds due to the underwhelming uptime of its effect compared to the efficacy of other options. More uptime on its effect is being given to better allow for a second activation in a fight. So the dark matter cooldown has been decreased from 10 seconds to 8 seconds. Count as players rejoice. Time warp. A small price cut for time warp to make it a little bit sweeter to buy. The cost has been decreased from 3050 to 3000. Wonderful for us who like to buy a little bit of cooldown in the early game. Moving into the support category, we've got Quantum Core. Quantum Core struggles to provide enough raw value for its cost. Given its more conditional blink effect, which does not necessarily equate to combat strength, while further quality of life adjustments are planned for in the future, some general stat improvements are being offered in the meantime to allow it better functionality for its prospective users. So it's had its cost decrease from 2,600 to 2,500, the health increased from 450 to 500, and the mana increased from 250 to 300. Finally, we've got the tank section. Catalytic drive. Did I say cataclysmic earlier? Catalytic drive. While the catalytic drive is providing tanks with a fresh new way to itemize against magical threats, it's currently offering too much value across the board, especially in the wave clear and sustain departments, which can result in a cessation of interaction in the lane once it's online. Reductions to its wave clear, healing, and free gold on offer are required to ensure that the item does not result in low interaction scenarios as frequently. Thus, the base health regen has been decreased from 100% to 80%. The deconstruction damage has been decreased from 100 to 60. The deconstruction damage bonus health scaling has been decreased from 6% to 5%. The deconstruction max health scaling has been decreased from 6% to 5%. And the deconstruction bonus gold has been decreased from 10 to 8. As a result, cybernetic drive, alongside the changes to catalytic drive, cybernetic drive is also losing the additional ability haste it gains on evolution to ensure it does not provide too much value in a single slot, while also reducing the now with how desirable it is for other classes to poach it. So oftentimes, in some scenarios, you'll find fighters poaching the cybernetic drive for themselves. So the base health regen has been decreased from 120% to 100%. The ability haste has been decreased from 15 to 10. The lesser deconstruction damage has been decreased from 100 to 80. The lesser deconstruction damage bonus health scaling has been decreased from 6% to 5%, and the lesser deconstruction max health scaling has been decreased from 6% to 5%. Finally, we round out the patch notes with some bug fixes. Fixed an issue where tutorial video background music was too loud. Fixed an issue where Morn's Beguile would always mesmerize for its full duration, regardless of its channel duration. Fixed an issue where Morn's Contagion description would state the incorrect effect duration. Fixed an issue where the in-game shop could become unresponsive for controller users navigating the tier tab. Fixed an issue where Kalari's Shadow Dance would force itself to jump in the same direction twice. Fixed an issue where affinity unlocks would not trigger their acquisition animation when gained. And fixed an issue where skin and hero purchases could soft lock menu navigation. Finally, fix an issue where Terminus could gain its shield from damaging towers. And with that, we close out the 1.3.2 patch notes. A healthy amount of fixes and changes, and we're slowly getting ready for version 1.4. I hope you guys are super excited for that, and thank you for joining me for this notice board. If there's anything that stood out to you about this notice board, please feel free to comment down below. And I'll catch you guys next time. Until then, stay safe, stay sane, and remember, pleasure in all things.